I'd do a comparison of the synth architecture and sort of sound design of the Tempest versus the Analog Rytm. I say versus, it's not really versus, it's just a comparison of the two. Both brilliant analog drum machines, but both have their own sort of character and both brilliant in their own way. Both very complex in their own way as well. I bought the Tempest first. I wanted a way to make my own drum sounds without going through thousands and thousands of drum samples. And like many people out there, I suspect, you just get bored of going through samples. You get a sample CD or download and thousands of kick drums on it. And if it's not quite right for your mix, you're sort of stuffed. So I just thought, let's have a go at making my own sounds. I got to say, I bought this one to do that. If I'd have bought that one first, I probably never would have bought the Tempest, because this does what I wanted to do originally, which is be able to get a drum sound and then tweak it and change it and tune it how you want. Change the length of it, change the decay, change the sweep on it, the tune on it, and this is exactly what that does brilliantly. Whereas this, you're making your sounds from scratch. So if I'd got that, I'd never have got this, but this has made me work in a slightly different way, and it comes up with different it comes up with ideas for me almost. So don't want to, never get rid of it now. I said never get rid of it, who knows, but it has its own sort of character, this, that I really like, and it makes me think about things in different ways, and I end up doing tracks that I would never have done without it. So from that perspective, it's fantastic tool. So this has got 2 analog and 2 digital oscillators per voice. It's got 6 voices in total, and each voice you build the sound exactly the same way. So you start off with your analog or your digital oscillators and build from there. You've got you've got 5 envelopes: pitch, low pass, amplitude, and 2 that you can assign to anything. Although it says amplitude, can you assign that to anything? No, you can't. But you can with these. You've got different destinations on these. So you've got 3 fixed: pitch, low pass, and amp, plus 2 assignable, 2 LFOs, and 8 mod paths. You have low pass filter, resonant low pass filter, 4 or 2 pole, high pass filter, non-resonant, which would be a bit of a shame really. That's not resonant. A sort of feedback amp, so that sort of headphone back into an external input type of affair, sort of gives you sort of nice distortions, and frequency modulation. This is the filters modulated by oscillator 1. Essentially that's it. But when I first got it, I thought, like a lot of the reviews and lots of people on forums say, kick drums are just, hard to come by, or not as good as you want them to be. And it took me quite a while to manage to get a decent kick drum. And actually, at the end of it, the most simple way was the best way, and was the last way I tried. I was trying to be a bit of a smart arse really, and I was using sort of different triangle waves, bringing in a little bit of noise, putting some sort of LFO at the end, extending the amplitude and the filters by modulating themselves. I was getting some really deep and really hefty, beautiful sounds, and really subby, amazing things that was almost like I'd never heard before, but went great in a mix. So I went back and I tried to let's have a look. I'll load this in. Tried to just start again from scratch and see what I could do in a much more simple method. This one's much easier. You come along, each of the sounds has its own synth architecture. So the bass drum's got a different one to the snare drums, different one to the toms, different to the hi-hats, etc., etc. And it's got all the parameters you'd sort of expect to be tweaking. Like, let's have a look on the kick drum on this. You've got tuning, sweep, snap, decay, wave type, the hold, the sort of tick, and the this is actually just the level of the actual synth. You've got synth and you've got a sample in there. So in the sample, you've got tune, you've got fine tune. You can choose the actual sample there. Then you can start and end points, and you can loop it. So lots of different things you can do with that you can't do with this. Well, this is to get things off the ground. This is much simpler, and I'll show you how much simpler in a second. So let's load the beat. What have I got here? In fact, what I'll show you quickly is just the how I sort of perceive the two of them. This one seems can be obviously can be what you want because it's essentially a sampler, because you can sample anything you want into it. Whereas this, the samples in here are fixed, but this seems to have a sort of much dirtier, aggressive sound to my ears than this. This seems to be much more controlled and controllable, which absolutely has its place, as does dirty and mean. So this is a beat I've created using just the onboard samples. Now, samples that are 909-ish, it says, so. And this is a sort of, it's not particularly 909, but what I mean, they're both sort of dancey, 128 BPM. The idea, but nice and sort of quite dirty sounding. In fact, I've just realised I had a compressor on that. That's without the compressor. So this one, I mean, it's a different sort of beat, it's for a different track, but. So there, what I'm doing is using these performance locks where you can adjust parameters according to how hard you're pushing these pads. The pads aren't excellent on this. You can sort of get between sort of 0 and 20, so you can get really small values and really high values, but in the middle it's quite difficult. Pads on this are brilliant. Just a sort of a by the by, really. But you can hear in that you've got all the sort of, I've got effects, I've got delays, I've got reverbs. On this, you don't get any of that really. You've got a MIDI delay, but it's not the same sort of thing, is it? So, right, okay. Yeah, that's this emulating an 808. You've got various sort of samples in there, as I say, that some 909, some 808. What you don't have, which is just a bizarre omission from my perspective, you don't have a 909 style hat, open hat, which is a sort of a staple. And I know that's not what you're meant to do with this. You're meant to do your own things. You're meant to think of your own, get your own sounds and be sort of esoteric. But it would be good to be able to use it in standard situations. I don't know what the hat I used in the other track was, but it's not quite a 909, which would be really nice. You can do what you like, but every now and then in a set and every now and then in some tracks, you want a sound. That it is a sound, it is a dance sound that's used by, it's been used for, decades now. Just a shame it's not there. But I remember going through the samples thinking, how come there's every other sound in here but bloody hi-hat? Never mind. Okay, so that's a sort of, I think these are the Lindrum samples. And then this is something I made purely with the analog architecture. So there's nothing digital in there at all. But I shall go through how you make a kick drum on this and how you make a kick drum on this one. So let's start off with this beat, nothing on it. Let's go to the sound, 12. Right, okay, I'll just initialize that sound. Now, when you get an initialized sound, what it does is it takes the analog oscillators off. It puts in this hollow thud noise, this sample into digital 3 and digital 4s off, or digital 2 and oscillator 4. So oscillator 1 and 2 and 4 are off, and oscillator 3 has got this hollow thud. In fact, I'll just take you through the inbuilt sample. So you can't change these; they are as what they are. There's hundreds of them, but these are the kick drum samples. So these are great actually. So these you can use these for adding your transients at the start of a kick. So you can have the transient. You can have a couple of these mixed together. You can have them coming in with different envelopes mixed together with the analog beats. So what you end up with is like just an infinite possibility of sounds. Just go through these. It's a long 808. Takes me back to going through flipping sample CDs, that does. So none of those are like sort of amazing, well-beaten sounds. In fact, they all sound sort of a bit plain and boring. But I think that's the point, really. They've picked a lot of different styles and different tones in order to help you to build a collection of almost anything you want. So let's start off with an analog kick then. Okay, so I'll turn that oscillator off. Nothing. Simplest way to make an analog kick is to use the low-pass resonant filter. So make sure four poles on, turn the resonance up, frequency down. So what have we got there? We've got resonance on about 103. Low pass on the actual frequency on about 45. Let's just adjust the frequency using the low pass envelope to give it a bit of a sort of a sweep. Sounding like a kick drum to me. Short. Long. Simple. Whoops. Let's put the microphone back. So simple, but it took me forever to work out that, and it literally is resonance about 100-ish, frequency between sort of 38 and 50, and then you go to the low pass envelope, decay down between 30 and 40, up to sorry, that's the decay, should be about between 30 and 40, and then you can hear the and then get your amplitude decay where you want it. That's about 90 at the minute. So really, sort of, it's quite. I make it look so simple there. But yeah, I was messing around for ages trying to work out how to do it using sort of noise and triangle waves and LFOs, just trying to make sort of really sort of interesting noises to start. But the best way to start is actually nice and simple. So there's no oscillators playing there. So let's stick a digital oscillator in there. Let's stick let's turn the decay down. Turn the mix of the analogs down. Sorry, let's get it. Oh, that one up, I should say. Change that. So you can hear there that you've got the initial sort of thud from the sample, followed by a bit of analog stuff. But instantly you can hear that's getting quite complicated. And once you start adding sort of a bit of decay, maybe an LFO in there, starts to you can hear that's turning into a sort of an interesting sounding kick drum. Let's put this camera back where it should be. Turn into an interesting sounding sort of kick drum. Maybe put some digital noise in there as well. You can put these pre or post filter. That is actually pre-filtered. Put it post filter. So you can hear now the digital, what I had there before, the digital signals going pre-filter. Now the mix between the pre and posts. So that's all pre, it's all post. So as you change these, but you can see it's it's slightly involved, this, isn't it? But quite interesting noises. So that's how you make kick drums. Now, I think they're okay. I think they're pretty good, but they do sort of lend themselves more to a hip hoppy feel, I think. As soon as you start getting the analog things in there, when it's just purely the digital, it can become much more sort of housey and electronic-y sounding, but it gets really, really nasty and dirty when you start sitting there. But you are sitting there for ages playing about. Well, that's the fun of it. But if you want a really quick turnaround, you want, need the kick drum, let's go. You can turn to the analog rhythm. So we need the kick drum, let's go. Right. So let's go to a new beat. C4, let's go to C5, anything on that? Right, there's something on C5, but C6. What it does is it puts the same kit on when you go into a new pattern. So what you can end up doing is doing something brilliant on, this is on C4 for example, that I just played you before. Not that that was something brilliant, but it was something on C4. And go on to C5, it's put the same kit onto 5. You start playing around with it, and it's changed the kit for C4. So it's annoying. So you make sure that when you get to a new pattern, that you put in a new kit. Otherwise, you're going to get yourself very annoyed very quickly. So this is how you go from the different beats, different sounds. Press track and track and the noise. On this one, it's just shift and whichever pad you're looking at. So now I'm editing that. Now hit that, I'm editing that. Now I'm hit that, I'm editing that. You probably can't see on that, but as soon as I hit it, that's the one I'm editing, which sounds great. Because of this, you've got to go from track and then. But on this one, if you so you start doing this, and then you start playing with the and you start adjusting the wrong sound, which is, well, that's just getting used to using different bits of kit, I suppose. So I keep on saying, how do you make a bass drum on this? And I've not made one yet. So let's do it. So okay, we initialize the beat, new beat, go to kick drum. Let's hear the kick drum. Instantly, here we go. That's a kick drum. So as this, you're starting off with basic synth principles. With this, you're starting off with a kick drum. Pads aren't very good on that. So yeah, you can even press these or the pads themselves. So let's have a look. If we go into the synth, you've got hard, classic, or FM. So these are the sort of machines, I suppose, or the different architectures you can use for the kick drum. We'll click on that again. So FM, yes. You probably can't see this, but you've got different parameters here for the different machines. So this has got FM parameters on it. So although you start off with a standard sort of kick drum sound, you quickly go into mental territory. Classic. So here you've got tune, sweep, sweep, decay, decay. And you've got different wave types. Might not be able to hear that. Hold. And they've got the clicks as well. But as soon as you start, you're into kick drum territory, whereas in this, you start with nothing. Well, you start with a few samples, I suppose. So the synth architecture on this, different per sound. You've also got the samples on this one. Now, the samples you load from the posi drive. I think it's the posi drive. It gets confusing because you've got internally, you've got you can have thousands of samples and thousands of patterns, etc., etc. But once you're into one of the kits or one of your projects, you tend to use what's in the posi drive, because you can parameter lock to these different samples, so you can change the samples per beat. But that means that once you change the project, you think you've got the same sounds, and you haven't, because you've got different sounds in your posi drive, which is infuriating as well. But the more complicated you get with anything, you know, the more problems that you can come across. So this is really complicated from a sound design point of view, and you can lose hours in this. In this, you can quickly get everything up and running, but you can lose it just as quickly. So I end up saving all the time and trying. I'm never sure if I've saved it correctly and if I'm ever gonna find it again, which is it's a bit annoying, but you know. So what I tend to do is do it right and get the sort of beat going and stick it in the door, and then it's there and then it's done. And I use it really, both of them, sort of as inspirational tools really. So they get me the sounds, put them in the door, and then I can move on. So yeah, so to summarise, really easy to get the sounds out of, you know, and they're all beautiful sounds. This, much more difficult to get the sounds out of, but it sounds different. It sounds like itself, so it makes me write things I wouldn't normally write. Let's have a listen to something. Oh, that was one I just played earlier. This actually really works. It sort of really takes to having a compressor, and I've got stick an Elisa compressor on this, the X filter and the X compressor I'm going to put on it. I think that reacts really well to a nice compressor. This has got its own, it's got its own compressor in, but I think that's more for live, where the distortion on this seems to click in. For play, you'll hear the distortion clicking in. So you can hear it almost turning on. So it's a not smooth transition from 0 to go. Although it does allow you to go really nasty. Won't go into it on this really, because this is more like working in a DAW, I suppose. You know, everything's really nicely controlled. You know what you're going to get. With this, you don't quite know what you're going to get. Sound design, you know, for snares and the like. Let's have a look at what I've got here. I've used a resonance digital filter on that, have I? Yeah, just white noise. So it's a digital. It's actually I said it was analog earlier. It's not actually analog. It's white noise, but it's not a snare clip. Again, I used digital noise on that one. I've used on this one, triangle and some white noise. White noise again. So. Nice though. both have a chromatic mode, 16 tunings. So you can go as crazy as you like, really. I've done more things that sound like tracks on this than on that. That I tend to use as a drum machine to do really nice loops, but they all tend to have nice parameter locks on them. Things bouncing around, bits of delay, little bits of reverb coming in and out and the like. Whereas this is more of a track sketching tool. And once I take something from this, it tends not to. It's got the elements of this, but it doesn't sound like this in the track. When I take that, it sounds like that in the track. That's the loop. You know, if we get the track up, that's what it sounds like. Let's go back to those tracks then. Let's have a listen to this, and what I'll do is I'll play the track it's been used on. Bit loud there. Okay, so here's the track it's been used on, and what you'll find is that it's prominent. It sounds like that in the track. Yeah, so as I said, this is, you know, that's the sound. I've done the little sort of the delays, little effects in it, and I use all of that in the track. It sounds great. I sample each of the bits individually, and then I can tweak them and maybe stick different effects on. I think, in fact, what I did with that was I used a delay in Logic rather than that delay. I think I used in fact I used Sound Toys. But yeah, it sounds like that. So this one, on the other hand. I mean, I love that. It wasn't like something I'd normally write, and I was playing about and just coming up with these sounds. In fact, I've just listened to some of this back through the speakers rather than headphones, and it's the depth you get out of this is incredible. And this thing, it's just sort of, as soon as you start playing with the kicks, it just blows you away. It's nice to listen to it loud. So if you can, stick this through studio monitor. Sounds great. Anyway, so here's the track that this inspired. Okay. So hopefully you can you can see that. Although it doesn't take a prominent part in that track. I think I used a sort of was it a sample phonics or not sample phonics? What was it? Revolution 2 or something? What's it called? TR Revolution 2 Wave Alchemy drum machine 808 for most of that, for the drums on it. But this is inside there, and there's effects spinning off what's coming from this from the main lead part. Has got some sort of weird harmonics going on, as well as the drums themselves. So that track wouldn't be there without this, but the drums aren't playing an integral part in the overall finished product. Although I have got other tracks where it does. So but this tends to be the drum machine for the track. These are the sounds. This tends to give me a lot more inspiration. Anyway, I hope you enjoy that, and it's been of some use to somebody somewhere. So yeah, I'll see you next time.